The planet Veyara had once been a jewel of the galaxy. Its cities sparkled under twin suns with towers reaching high into the sky, their glassy surfaces reflecting light like diamonds. But now Veyara was a world in chaos. Smoke and fire painted the horizon, and the once gleaming streets were littered with rubble and debris. The sounds of explosions and alarm sirens echoed across the ruined city. Alien soldiers shouted orders, civilians screamed in panic, and the sky was filled with strange flying machines engaged in a deadly dance of war. Amid the chaos, one figure stood out, not because she commanded armies or because her appearance was striking, but because she moved with a grace and dignity that seemed unshaken by the terror surrounding her. Lyra, the leader of Veyara, was trapped beneath a fallen tower. Her long, shimmering hair was tangled in dust and debris, and her delicate wings, folded awkwardly under the rubble, twitched in discomfort. She could hear the battle raging around her, alien soldiers struggling to fight off the invading forces, and civilians running for their lives. Her heart pounded, not just from fear but from the frustration of being helpless. Her elite guards were near, but fear had frozen them. They stayed just out of range of the enemy fire, unsure if they should advance or retreat. Lyra's mind raced. If she stayed here, she knew the enemy would capture or kill her. The thought made her stomach churn. She had led her people through many battles, and yet now, in this moment, she felt a pang of vulnerability she had never known before. Suddenly, a loud roar of engines and the sharp clatter of landing gear drew her attention. A ship descended through the smoke, kicking up dust and rubble in its wake. From it emerged a group of human soldiers. They wore sleek armor, marked with a symbol she did not recognize, but their movements were precise and coordinated. Lyra observed them with curiosity. The humans were rumored to be fearless, even reckless in their missions, but she had never expected one to appear here, in the heart of her city, at such a dangerous time. The leader of the group, a tall human man with determined eyes, scanned the area. His armor was scratched and battered, showing signs of earlier combat, but his gaze was sharp. Lyra's eyes locked onto him instinctively. There was something about his presence, something that seemed to cut through the chaos, as if he brought a calm order with him. She noticed that while other humans moved cautiously, he advanced without hesitation, stepping into the middle of the battlefield as if it were a simple training exercise. Lyra's curiosity turned into astonishment as she watched him move. He didn't run from the enemy or hide behind cover. Instead, he charged forward, weaving between explosions and blasts of energy with incredible precision. Her guards hesitated, but he did not. He was heading straight toward her. Her mind raced. Who is this human? Why would he risk his life for me? She wondered. She had faced countless warriors, countless enemies, yet she had never encountered someone who acted so boldly for the sake of another. The human soldier, Captain Alex Mercer, though Lyra did not know his name, reached her side in moments that felt like minutes. Dust and debris swirled around him, but he crouched beside her without a trace of fear. His hands were steady as he lifted pieces of heavy rubble that had trapped her wings and legs. Despite the weight and the danger, his movements were controlled and precise. Lyra could hardly believe her eyes. "Stay still," he said calmly, his voice firm but not harsh. "I've got you." Lyra wanted to speak, to ask who he was and why he was risking his life, but words failed her. All she could do was watch, utterly shocked as this human soldier moved with strength and care. Her guards, seeing his courage, seemed to find a spark of bravery themselves. One by one, they started to assist, but it was clear that without Alex, she would have remained trapped. Finally, with one last heave, Alex lifted the heaviest piece of debris and helped her free. Lyra stretched her wings carefully, testing them, grateful to find no permanent damage. She tried to compose herself, but her heart was still racing, a mix of fear, relief, and admiration. "You saved me," she managed to say, her voice barely a whisper. "Why?" Alex gave a small, almost shy smile. "Because anyone trapped in danger deserves help," he said simply. "It doesn't matter who you are." Lyra studied him closely. She had always been surrounded by people who followed orders, not by those who acted on principle. His answer was strange to her, almost foreign, but there was a purity in it she could not ignore. It made her respect him even more. The sound of approaching enemy reinforcements snapped them both back to reality. Alex quickly assessed their surroundings and helped Lyra to her feet. She stumbled at first but regained her balance, feeling steadier because of his presence beside her. "Can you walk?" he asked. "I can," she replied, determination entering her voice. "Good. Then we move fast." Stay close to me, he instructed. Together they navigated the battlefield, dodging blasts of energy and falling debris. Alex's knowledge of the terrain and quick thinking kept them alive. Each time Lyra stumbled, he was there, steadying her, shielding her from harm. Other humans followed, securing a path through the chaos, but none of them matched his speed and daring. As they ran, Lyra's mind kept returning to one question. Why him? Why this human and why this courage? She had been a leader for years, commanding armies and inspiring loyalty. Yet she had never seen such fearlessness. Even her most trusted soldiers had hesitated, frozen in the face of danger, but Alex had acted without hesitation, without thought for himself. It was extraordinary. By the time they reached a relatively safe zone, the city's chaos still raged around them, but they had gained a small pocket of security. Alex led Lyra to a makeshift shelter, a ruined building that had not yet collapsed. He checked her for injuries carefully, his hands steady and professional. "You'll be okay," he said. "Just a few scratches. Nothing serious." Lyra looked at him, genuinely stunned. "You risked everything for me, and yet you treat it like nothing." Alex shrugged lightly. "When you're trained for this, you learn quickly. Saving someone shouldn't be about glory. It should be about doing what's right." Lyra was silent for a moment, trying to process his words. In her experience, leaders were saved because of status, and soldiers fought because they were ordered to. Yet here was a human who acted out of principle alone. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a mixture of awe, gratitude, and something she had not experienced before. "You are different from all the others," she said finally, her voice quiet but firm. "I have never met anyone like you." Alex gave her a reassuring smile. "Good or bad, I'm just me, and right now we need to make sure you stay alive." Lyra nodded, understanding the truth in his words. The city was far from safe, and their mission was far from over. Yet for the first time in her life, she felt a spark of hope, not just for her survival, but for the possibility that courage, loyalty, and selflessness were not limited to her own people. Perhaps, she thought, humans could teach her something about bravery she had never known. As night fell over the smoldering city, Lyra and Alex stayed close, watching the distant fires and listening to the fading sounds of battle. Lyra's mind wandered, thinking about what had just happened. She had been saved by someone she barely knew, someone from a distant species she had never trusted, and yet here he was, standing beside her, calm, brave, and unshakable. In that moment, Lyra realized something important. Courage was not about power, rank, or appearance. It was about action. It was about stepping forward when others hesitated. And this human soldier had shown her a kind of courage she had never truly understood. The first part of her journey was over, but her story with Alex was only beginning. And she had no idea how deeply his presence would change her, or how much her own world and heart would be transformed by this one extraordinary human soldier. The night air over the ruined city was heavy with smoke and the distant hum of battle. Inside the shelter, Lyra rested against a pile of rubble that had been cleared just enough to form a makeshift seat. She watched Alex move efficiently, checking his equipment and scanning the streets outside through broken windows. There was a calm focus to him, a confidence born of experience, and Lyra could not help but study him with curiosity. Her guards lingered nearby, uneasy and silent. They had survived many battles, but nothing had prepared them for seeing a human act so boldly in the heart of danger. Lyra noticed their eyes shifting toward Alex again and again, silently questioning his courage. And yet, despite their confusion, they could not deny it. This human had saved their leader when none of them could. Lyra found herself speaking aloud, more to herself than to anyone else. "Why did you come for me? Why risk everything when no one else would?" Alex looked at her, calm and unwavering. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said simply. "I can't explain it more than that. I don't need to wait for orders or think about reward. If someone's in danger, you help them. That's all there is to it." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. His words were strange to her. In her culture, actions were always tied to rank, duty, or reward. Rarely did anyone act purely for the sake of another. And yet here was a human who did exactly that. She felt a mixture of admiration and confusion. She had been a leader for years, and yet she had never encountered someone like Alex. She decided to test him. "Do you always act without fear?" she asked quietly. Alex shook his head. "No, fear is natural. It's what you do despite it that matters." Lyra was silent for a moment. His words resonated with her. She had faced countless battles and she knew fear intimately, but she had rarely seen someone use it to guide action rather than freeze in hesitation. Outside, the sounds of distant explosions reminded them that the city was still far from safe. The enemy had not retreated. They had merely withdrawn to reorganize. Lyra knew that sooner or later another attack would come. The thought made her chest tighten, but she felt steadier with Alex nearby. "I need to understand your ways," Lyra said finally, her voice measured. "Your courage. It is unlike anything I have seen." Alex smiled slightly. "There isn't much to understand. Humans have strengths and we have weaknesses. I can't explain everything in your terms, but I can show you what we do when it matters." Lyra considered this. Perhaps she could learn from him, not just about humans, but about courage itself. The thought was strange yet exciting. For the first time, she felt that her own understanding of leadership and bravery might expand beyond what she had always known. As the night deepened, Alex moved to set up a small perimeter around the shelter. He adjusted his equipment, placed a few sensor devices, and then returned to her side. "We should rest soon," he said. "You need your strength for what's coming. The enemy won't wait forever." Lyra nodded, but her mind was restless. She wanted to understand this human more, to know why he was different. "Tell me about your people," she asked. "What makes you so willing to face danger for others?" Alex sat beside her, leaning back against the wall. "It's not about being fearless. It's about responsibility. When someone depends on you, you act. We learn to value life even in small ways. Every life matters." Lyra listened carefully. She had always valued her people, but much of her leadership had been about power and control. The idea of acting simply because it was right was foreign, and yet it felt noble. Hours passed as they talked, sharing stories of their respective worlds. Lyra described the beauty of Vayara before the war, the shimmering towers, the lush gardens, and the elegant ceremonies. Alex shared tales of Earth, of humans working together to survive disasters, helping one another without expectation. Gradually, Lyra's suspicion of him faded, replaced by a sense of trust. She realized that this human soldier, unlike anyone she had met, was guided not by rank or reward, but by a simple principle: protect life when it is in danger. That principle, she realized, was rare and powerful. Suddenly, a distant alarm blared through the city. The enemy had begun another push, and the ground trembled as heavy machines approached. Lyra's guards instinctively reached for their weapons, but it was Alex who stood and peered through a hole in the wall. "They're coming faster than before," he said. "We need to move now." Lyra nodded. Despite her admiration for Alex, she knew the situation was critical. Her instincts as a leader surged. "We can make it to the central command bunker," she said. "It's fortified. We can regroup there and plan our next move." Alex's eyes scanned the streets. "It's risky," he said, "but it's the best option." Together they moved out, navigating through ruined streets and debris. Lyra noticed that her guards now followed Alex's lead, inspired by his fearlessness and skill. She realized that he had a different kind of leadership, one that drew respect naturally rather than demanding it. As they moved, Lyra's thoughts kept returning to the moment he had first saved her. No one else had stepped forward. Not her guards, not her allies. Only this human had dared to risk everything. That bravery, that selflessness was unlike anything she had ever encountered. At one point, a blast from an enemy machine sent debris flying toward them. Alex reacted instantly, pulling Lyra to safety and deflecting the debris with his body. Lyra felt a rush of gratitude and a strange warmth she could not describe. She had been saved again, and again it was him. When they finally reached the outskirts of the city, they found a narrow tunnel leading toward the central command bunker. The tunnel was dark, tight, and treacherous, but it offered cover from the enemy's line of sight. Alex moved first, leading the way, his movements confident and precise. Lyra followed, her trust in him absolute. Inside the tunnel, the two shared a brief silence. Lyra broke it first. "I have seen many warriors," she said softly, "but none like you. You act with courage, yes, but also with thought. You risk yourself, yet you protect others. How can one person carry so much at once?" Alex smiled faintly, but there was no arrogance in his expression. "It's not about carrying it all. It's about doing the next right thing, over and over. You focus on what you can do, not what you can't. That's how you survive." Lyra considered his words carefully. She had always planned for every possible outcome, every threat, every risk. But she realized that his method, acting decisively without fear of perfection, was what had saved her. Finally, they emerged from the tunnel into the bunker's entrance. The walls were reinforced and the interior was quiet for the first time since the attack began. Lyra felt a sense of relief, but also a spark of something new, curiosity, respect, and a faint thrill she could not ignore. Alex scanned the area, ensuring it was safe. "We're clear for now," he said. "We can plan our next move here." Lyra nodded, standing tall despite the fatigue. She looked at him and realized that in the chaos of war, she had found something rare. Trust. Not just in survival, but in another being. Someone from a distant world who had acted when everyone else hesitated. For the first time, Lyra saw humans, not just as outsiders, but as capable allies. And she realized that her own perspective was changing. She could not explain fully why, but she knew that Alex's actions had left a lasting impression. His courage, his principles, and his unwavering focus had opened her mind to new possibilities. As the night deepened, Lyra and Alex prepared for the next phase of the battle. Outside, the city burned, but inside the bunker, a quiet determination settled over them. They were not just fighting to survive. They were learning from each other, building a trust that neither species had expected. Lyra had been shocked, astonished, and grateful. But above all, she had begun to see something she had never known before: the power of courage guided by principle, and the potential of a human soldier who dared to act when everyone else feared to move. In that quiet bunker, surrounded by the echoes of war, Lyra realized that her life and her world would never be the same again. And she could not help but wonder what the next day would bring, now that she had found an ally who was as fearless as he was wise. The sun rose over the shattered city of Viara, casting an eerie orange glow over the ruins. Smoke still curled from the buildings, and the distant hum of enemy machines reminded everyone that the battle was far from over. Lyra stood at the entrance of the bunker, her wings stretching slightly as she observed the city. The scars of the previous night's attack were visible everywhere: craters in the streets, destroyed towers, and scattered debris. Yet she felt steadier than before. Next to her, Alex Mercer prepared his weapons and checked the sensors they had set up. He had spent hours mapping the enemy's movements and predicting their next strike. Despite the danger, he moved with calm precision, his focus unshakable. Lyra watched him and felt a strange mixture of admiration and awe. She had led armies for years, yet she had never encountered such clear thinking under pressure. "The enemy will push from the east this time," Alex said, pointing to a holographic map he had set up inside the bunker. "They're expecting resistance here, but we'll turn that expectation against them. Their overconfidence will be their weakness." Lyra nodded, absorbing every detail. "Your strategy. It is different from what we normally do," she said. "You rely on surprise, speed, and unpredictability." Alex smiled faintly. "It's what works. You can have the strongest army, the largest weapons, but if you don't think one step ahead, you lose." Lyra felt a spark of excitement. She had always appreciated clever tactics, but seeing them in action, especially guided by someone she trusted, was exhilarating. She realized that she was learning from him, not just about battle, but about perspective, courage, and leadership. When the first sounds of approaching enemy forces reached them, the bunker team prepared. Lyra's guards moved quickly, though still with hesitation. Alex noticed and stepped forward. "Follow my lead," he instructed. "Trust what I do and keep your focus. We can turn this fight in our favor." Lyra watched as he led the team out of the bunker. The streets were chaotic, filled with enemy machines advancing toward the city center. Civilians were fleeing, seeking shelter wherever they could. Alex moved swiftly, positioning his team in strategic locations, making use of the city's ruins as cover. His movements were precise, and he seemed to anticipate the enemy's every step. As the battle began, Lyra found herself in awe. Explosions rocked the streets and alien soldiers fired energy blasts, but Alex remained calm, directing his team, shielding civilians, and engaging enemies when necessary. He acted decisively without hesitation, and yet he showed care for those around him. Every move he made was calculated, but every decision saved lives. At one point, Lyra herself was nearly struck by a falling piece of debris from a collapsing tower. Without thinking, Alex lunged forward, pushing her out of the way just in time. She stumbled but regained her balance, and for a moment she simply stared at him, amazed. Once again he had saved her life just as he had the night before. "Why do you keep saving me?" she asked, breathless from both the battle and her astonishment. Alex didn't hesitate. "Because I can. Because someone has to. Because it's the right thing to do." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest. His bravery was extraordinary, but it was more than that, it was principled. He risked himself not for glory, not for power, but because it was right. She had never seen such selflessness, and it shook her in ways she could not explain. The enemy forces advanced steadily, confident in their numbers, yet Alex's tactics began to take effect. He directed his team to flank the attackers, setting traps using the city's ruined structures. Alien soldiers who had previously thought victory was assured found themselves confused and disoriented. The humans in Lyra's team moved like shadows, striking precisely where the enemy was weakest. Lyra herself joined the fight, her wings and agility giving her an advantage. Yet even as she fought with skill, she found herself watching Alex. His calm focus, quick thinking, and decisive action made him more than a soldier. He was a leader. She had commanded countless troops, but she had never met anyone like him. At one point, a massive enemy machine broke through the defenses, heading straight toward Lyra. Her guards were paralyzed with fear, unsure how to respond. Alex noticed instantly. Without hesitation, he charged forward, using a combination of speed and strategy to disable the machine. His actions not only saved Lyra again, but also inspired her guards to fight with renewed courage. Lyra realized something important in that moment. Courage was contagious. Seeing someone act decisively and fearlessly gave others the strength to follow. Alex's bravery had not only saved her life multiple times, it had changed the course of the battle itself. The fight continued for hours, with both sides suffering losses. Yet through it all, Alex remained unshaken. He protected Lyra at every turn, always alert, always calculating, always ready to act. Lyra felt a deep admiration for him. She had faced countless enemies and challenges, but none had moved her as profoundly as this human soldier. Finally, after a long and grueling battle, the enemy forces began to retreat. Their numbers were reduced, their morale shattered by the unexpected tactics and the courage of Alex and his team. Lyra surveyed the battlefield. The city was damaged, but many lives had been saved. Her people, inspired by the human soldiers' actions, had fought bravely, and she felt a swell of pride in them. Alex approached her, wiping dust and sweat from his face. "It's over for now," he said, "but we can't relax completely. They may regroup and return." Lyra looked at him, her wings folding slightly. You saved not just me, but all of us," she said quietly. "And yet you never sought credit. You never hesitated. Why?" Alex shrugged, modest but firm. "I don't do it for credit. I do it because someone needs to act. Someone has to be brave when others can't. That's all there is to it." Lyra felt a surge of respect and something more she could not yet name. She had been a leader for years, commanding armies and inspiring loyalty, but she had never seen someone act with such courage, clarity, and humility. He was unlike anyone she had ever met. For the first time, she felt that humans might hold qualities she had never imagined, qualities that could change the way she thought about leadership, loyalty, and bravery. She realized that Alex had not only saved her life multiple times, but he had also shown her a new way to see the world. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the ruined city, Lyra and Alex walked through the streets, checking on civilians and guiding them to safety. Each step reinforced her admiration for him. He was fearless yet thoughtful, brave yet compassionate, a combination she had never witnessed before. At one point, a young alien child, scared and trembling, ran toward Lyra. Alex stepped forward instantly, comforting the child with gentle words and guiding them to safety. Lyra watched, realizing that his courage extended beyond the battlefield. He cared for life in all its forms, not just for the sake of duty, but because it was the right thing to do. Lyra felt a quiet determination take root in her heart. She would learn from this human soldier. She would study his actions, his principles, and his courage. Perhaps she could become not just a leader of her people, but a leader who inspired true bravery and selflessness, like Alex Mercer. As night fell, the city settled into an uneasy calm. Fires still burned in some areas, but the immediate threat had passed. Lyra stood with Alex, observing the stars above, feeling a strange sense of hope. The battle had changed many things, but most of all it had changed her perception of humanity. She no longer saw humans as outsiders or mere allies. She saw them as capable, principled, and courageous beings who could stand beside the strongest warriors in the galaxy and make a difference. And she realized that Alex was the embodiment of all those qualities. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt a sense of awe, not just for the human soldier who had saved her repeatedly, but for the potential of what humans could achieve when guided by courage and principle. She knew that the next stage of this war would test them all. But she also knew that with Alex by her side there was hope. And so, as the city slept uneasily under the twin moons of Veyara, Lyra made a silent promise. She would follow this human soldier's lead, trust his judgment, and learn from his courage, because she had seen what one human could do, and she knew that together they could change the course of history. The city of Veyara had survived the attacks, but the scars of battle were everywhere. Buildings lay in ruins, streets were cracked and littered with debris, and the once brilliant towers were darkened by smoke. Yet despite the devastation, there was a sense of quiet triumph. The people had survived, thanks in large part to the human soldier who had repeatedly risked his life to save them. Lyra walked through the streets, observing her citizens returning cautiously to their homes. Many of them still whispered about the human who had saved their leader, their eyes wide with admiration and disbelief. She felt a mixture of pride and respect. Her people were resilient, yes, but it was Alex Mercer, the human soldier, who had inspired them to act courageously when fear threatened to paralyze them. Alex moved beside her, his armor scratched and worn from the battles, yet his stance remained steady. He spoke quietly, giving instructions to ensure civilians were safe and supplies reached those in need. Lyra watched him and realized that his strength was not only physical but also moral. He acted decisively, with clarity and care, inspiring confidence in everyone around him. "You have changed more than this city," Lyra said softly, almost to herself, but Alex heard her. He glanced at her, curious. "Changed? How do you mean?" Lyra smiled faintly. "You have shown my people, and me, that courage is not about power or fearlessness. It is about choice, acting when others hesitate, protecting life when it matters most. You have done this repeatedly, and it has left an impression that cannot be erased." Alex nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. "I did what anyone should do. The rest is up to you." Lyra considered that. She had commanded armies and made countless decisions in her life, but she had never witnessed bravery quite like this. His courage had not only saved her, but it had inspired her guards, her citizens, and even herself. She realized that the human soldier had redefined what it meant to be brave. As they approached the city center, they were greeted by cheers from the civilians and soldiers who had survived the attacks. Lyra's guards, once hesitant and fearful, now moved with confidence and determination, their respect for Alex evident in every glance. Even the alien leaders who had doubted humans now looked upon him with admiration. Lyra stepped forward, addressing the crowd. "Today, we have survived not because of strength alone, but because of courage, loyalty, and action. And among us is someone extraordinary, a human who has risked his life not for glory but because it was right. Captain Alex Mercer has shown us the true meaning of bravery." The crowd erupted in applause and cheers. Alex, slightly embarrassed by the attention, gave a modest nod. He was not used to praise, but he understood its importance. His actions had inspired others, and that was enough. After the ceremony, Lyra and Alex found a quiet moment away from the crowd. The city was still in chaos, but for the first time since the attacks began, there was a sense of hope. Lyra turned to Alex, her expression serious, yet warm. "You have saved me more times than I can count," she said. "But more than that, you have taught me something important. Courage is not just strength, it is choice. And leadership is not just command, it is action. I respect you deeply, Alex Mercer." Alex met her gaze, a faint smile crossing his face. "And I respect you, Lyra. You are a remarkable leader and your people are lucky to have you. I have only done what was needed. The rest, well, that's your gift as a leader." Lyra's wings folded slightly as she considered his words. She realized that their partnership had gone beyond survival. Together, they had saved countless lives, inspired courage in others, and redefined what it meant to lead. Humans and aliens, working together, had achieved something extraordinary. Over the following days, Lyra and Alex worked tirelessly to rebuild the city. Civilians and soldiers alike followed their guidance, inspired by their example. Alex taught them tactics and strategies that were new to the alien army, emphasizing quick thinking, collaboration, and courage in the face of fear. Lyra observed closely, learning not just from his methods but from his principles, the quiet strength, the humility, and the unwavering commitment to do what was right. As the city slowly regained order, Lyra called a meeting of her closest advisors and guards. "We have learned a valuable lesson," she said. "Bravery is not measured by power alone. Leadership is not defined by authority alone. And humans may have strengths we never fully understood. Captain Alex Mercer has shown us that one individual can change everything." Her advisors nodded, acknowledging the truth in her words. Many had doubted humans before, but now they could see the courage, intelligence, and moral strength that Alex had displayed. Lyra's respect for him deepened, and she realized that he was not just an ally, he was someone she could trust fully, someone who had earned her admiration and confidence. One evening, as the twin suns set over the city, Lyra and Alex stood on a high balcony overlooking the rebuilding efforts. Civilians moved below, clearing rubble and repairing buildings. Soldiers trained and organized supply lines. The city was far from perfect, but it was alive, resilient, and full of hope. Lyra turned to Alex. "You have changed my people and you have changed me," she said quietly. "I cannot thank you enough, not just for saving my life, but for showing me a new way to lead, a new way to act, and a new way to see the world." Alex smiled, humble as always. "I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because it was right. But I'm glad if it has helped." Lyra studied him, realizing that his courage was not just about facing enemies. It was about acting with integrity, with care, and with the willingness to protect others even when it was dangerous. She felt a deep respect and trust for him, feelings she had never expected to experience. The rebuilding continued over the weeks, and the bond between Lyra and Alex grew stronger. They strategized together, trained their soldiers, and helped civilians adapt to the post-battle city. The aliens who had once doubted humans now embraced them as partners and allies. The city's morale improved, and a sense of unity spread throughout Veyara. One day, as Lyra observed the city from her office, she noticed Alex working with a group of young soldiers, teaching them strategies and encouraging them to act boldly. She smiled quietly. His influence extended far beyond the battlefield. He had instilled courage, thoughtfulness, and collaboration in her people. He had shown them that one individual, guided by principle and bravery, could inspire an entire community. Later, Alex approached her with a small data pad. "I've been analyzing the city's defenses and resources," he said. "I think we can make improvements that will prevent another attack like the last one. With your permission, I can help implement them." Lyra looked at him, impressed. "Of course. Your insights have proven invaluable. Lead the way." Together they worked to strengthen Veyara, combining human ingenuity with alien technology. Every action reinforced the lessons they had learned from one another. Courage guided by principle, leadership tempered with care, and trust that transcended differences. As the city stabilized, Lyra found a quiet moment alone with Alex. She looked at him, the twin suns casting long shadows behind him. "I have learned more from you than from anyone else," she said softly. "Your bravery, your principles, your willingness to act. It has changed everything." Alex met her gaze, serious but gentle. "And I have learned from you as well. Your leadership, your dedication to your people, your courage. It is inspiring. We make a good team." Lyra nodded, realizing the truth of his words. Together, they had faced impossible odds, saved countless lives, and transformed their world. She felt a deep sense of gratitude and admiration for him, and she knew that their bond was unbreakable. The story of the city's survival spread quickly across the galaxy. Tales of the human soldier who had repeatedly risked his life to save an alien leader inspired other civilizations to reconsider humans, not as outsiders, but as allies capable of extraordinary courage and principle. Lyra found herself speaking about him often, acknowledging the lessons he had taught her and the hope he had brought to her people. Finally, as the city rested under the light of the twin moons, Lyra and Alex stood together on the balcony, watching the citizens below. Fires burned low in some areas, and the sound of rebuilding filled the streets. The city had survived, and it had been changed for the better. Lyra turned to Alex, her voice quiet but sincere. "Thank you for everything, not just for saving my life, but for showing me the power of courage, trust, and principle. You have changed my world." Alex smiled, his eyes reflecting the light of the moons. "It's been an honor, Lyra, and the truth is, you've changed mine as well. Your strength, your wisdom, your courage, it has reminded me why we fight, why we protect, and why we act when it matters most." For the first time in her life, Lyra felt that true partnership was possible between species, between individuals, and between worlds. The human soldier had not only saved her life, but he had transformed her understanding of bravery, leadership, and trust. She looked at him, no longer in shock, but in admiration, respect, and deep appreciation. As the night deepened and the stars shone above the rebuilt city, Lyra realized something profound. Courage transcends species. Trust can be earned in the hardest moments, and one individual can inspire change far greater than armies or weapons ever could.